If this video appeared in front of you today, understand something immediately. This is not random timing. You didn't simply stumble across this message while scrolling through the noise of the internet. Something about this exact moment placed it in front of you, and if you're here right now, then you're arriving precisely when you were meant to. March 9th is not an ordinary day. Something subtle but powerful is unfolding beneath the surface of reality. And the strange part is that the first people who feel these shifts are always the same kind of individuals. The ones who are paying attention. The awakened ones. And whether you realize it yet or not, the fact that you're here means you're already part of that group. Because today carries a rare kind of energy. The kind that doesn't just pass by unnoticed. The kind that quietly rearranges the direction of your life. But here's the strange part. Most people will move through this day exactly the same as every other day. They'll wake up, follow their routines, scroll through distractions, and never realize that something inside them was trying to wake up. Yet a small number of people will feel it instantly. They'll sense that something shifted yesterday. And today is the moment when that shift begins revealing its consequences. And the force behind that shift is surprisingly simple: the Venus-Saturn alignment. This alignment does something most people don't expect. It doesn't remove the pressure you've been feeling. It transforms it. The emotional weight you've been carrying, the confusion that seemed impossible to untangle, the resistance that made everything feel harder than it should be. All of it begins changing form. What once felt like a burden suddenly becomes direction. What once felt like limitation begins turning into momentum. Even the struggles that drained you begin revealing the hidden purpose they carried all along. It's as if the universe takes everything that seemed negative and quietly converts it into fuel. And that's why today holds so much potential. Because today is the moment when that transformation becomes visible. Even if the journey here felt uncomfortable, it was never wasted. Nothing you experienced was random. Everything was preparation. Today also carries another powerful opportunity. It is one of the strongest moments to set intentions, because the energy around you is no longer working against you the way it once did. The very forces that once slowed you down are beginning to move in your favor. You may not fully see it yet, but you are already being nudged forward. And this moment is building towards something that most people will completely miss. Because there is a psychological trap that appears almost every time clarity arrives. And today is exactly the kind of day when that trap appears. It happens the moment you suddenly see something clearly. A relationship, a situation, a truth about yourself. The moment clarity arrives, something strange begins happening inside the mind. It begins negotiating with the past. You may hear thoughts like, maybe I'm overthinking this. Maybe it's not as serious as it feels. Maybe I should just ignore it. But here's what most people fail to understand. When clarity arrives during a Venus-Saturn alignment, it isn't random. It isn't a passing thought. And it definitely isn't your imagination. It's the final stage of a realization that has been forming inside you for a long time. Saturn represents closure. Venus represents emotional truth. And when those two forces meet, illusions begin collapsing. The clarity you feel is not the beginning of doubt. It is the end of denial. The real mistake isn't seeing the truth too clearly. The real mistake is trying to shrink yourself back into the version of you who tolerated it. Growth doesn't politely ask for permission. It demands alignment. And whatever realization surfaced for you recently didn't appear overnight. It is the result of a long internal process finally reaching the surface. So don't silence it. Don't rewind your progress. And don't try to force yourself back into something your soul has already moved beyond. Because while the mind clings to familiarity, the soul never does. And today, your soul is louder than your comfort zone. Don't be surprised if today brings something unexpected. Memories. You might suddenly remember scenes from your childhood, moments from school, conversations from years ago that you haven't thought about in ages. Even awkward, painful, or embarrassing memories may suddenly rise to the surface. And if that happens, understand something important. Nothing is wrong. In fact, it's the opposite. The Venus-Saturn energy has a unique effect on the psyche. It begins unlocking deeper layers of your past, but not to haunt you, to free you. Certain memories resurface because a part of your identity became frozen inside those moments. And today, those emotional fragments are finally being released. Some memories may feel heavy, others may feel strangely meaningful, and some will appear without any emotional reaction at all. That last one is especially important, because it means you're no longer reliving the memory. You're closing it. What's happening inside you right now is a quiet recalibration. Venus reveals the experiences that shaped your heart. Saturn highlights the events that forged your strength. Together, they illuminate the hidden chapters that turned you into who you are today. These flashbacks are not setbacks. They are signals. Signals that something inside you is reorganizing itself for the future. Your past isn't returning to trap you. It's returning to deliver the wisdom you missed the first time. And once that message is understood, the emotional weight disappears. Those memories lose their grip, and you move forward lighter than before. There is a pattern in life that very few people talk about, but it appears every time someone is standing at the edge of a new chapter. It rarely looks dramatic. There are no fireworks, no sudden miracles. Instead, it shows up in timing. Perfectly placed moments that feel too precise to be coincidence. Maybe you overhear a sentence that answers a question you've been struggling with for weeks. Maybe you scroll past something online that suddenly changes your perspective. Maybe a random conversation with someone unexpected shifts the way you see your situation. On the surface, these moments look ordinary, but when someone is approaching a major life transition, timing begins behaving strangely, almost suspiciously precise. Awakened individuals notice this pattern more than most people, not because they are special, but because they are paying attention. They are listening to life's rhythm instead of sleepwalking through it. They notice subtle cues, they sense alignment, and they recognize when something invisible is quietly guiding them forward. But this realization leads to an uncomfortable question. How many life-changing opportunities have people missed simply because they assumed it was just another normal day? How many turning points passed unnoticed because they weren't paying attention? This is exactly what is unfolding around March 9th. The energy is not forcing anything. It is synchronizing events, small moments, perfect timing, subtle nudges. And if you are noticing them today, it's because something inside you is already shifting. Life doesn't shout when it changes your direction. It whispers, and only those who are awake hear it. Another strange phenomenon happens during moments like this. Reality begins catching up to thoughts you had earlier in the week. Maybe you had a sudden idea, a quiet realization, a strange feeling that something was about to change. At the time, it seemed random, but now, pieces of that thought are starting to appear in real life. Through conversations, through opportunities, through situations that feel strangely connected. And suddenly, you begin wondering, how far ahead was your intuition? This isn't mystical thinking. It's actually much simpler. When the Venus-Saturn alignment clears emotional noise, your thinking becomes sharper. Your thoughts begin reflecting the direction your life is naturally moving toward. Not where fear once pointed, not where doubt tried to keep you, but where your true path has been quietly leading all along. So, when certain ideas begin appearing in your real-world experiences, it isn't coincidence, it's alignment. Your inner world and outer world are finally speaking the same language. And that's why today feels different. Small moments suddenly stand out. Certain thoughts refuse to leave your mind. Today acts like a bridge between what you sensed internally and what is now beginning to manifest externally. Your intuition was never random. It was a preview. The reason most people miss moments like this is surprisingly simple. They expect transformation to be loud. They imagine breakthroughs arriving with dramatic signs, huge events, emotional explosions, something undeniable that forces them to pay attention. But because they're waiting for something big, they overlook the moments that actually change everything. The quiet ones, the moments where nothing seems different on the outside, yet something inside them is rearranging itself. March 9th is exactly that kind of moment. For millions of people today will feel completely ordinary. They'll move through it automatically, unaware that clarity and opportunity are passing right beside them. They are waiting for fireworks, but real turning points rarely look like fireworks. They look like awareness, a subtle shift in perception, the moment you stop arguing with truths you've known for a long time. And that's the real key. Today is the day when inner conflict begins dissolving, the day when denial loses its grip, the day when something inside you quietly says, "I can't pretend I don't see this anymore." Most people miss clarity because they expect it to shout. Awakened souls recognize it because they hear the whisper. And the moment you stop resisting that inner truth, life begins aligning in ways you never expected. So, if this message found you today, consider something. Maybe nothing extraordinary had to happen in the sky for this moment to matter. Maybe the significance isn't the date. Maybe it isn't the alignment. Maybe it's you. Maybe the real reason this moment matters is because you were aware enough to pause, present enough to listen, and honest enough to admit that something inside you is shifting. Not every sign arrives like lightning. Sometimes the most important signals arrive as a quiet feeling that refuses to go away. A realization that keeps returning. A sense that a new chapter is approaching. March 9th could have been just another ordinary day. But something led you here. And maybe that something isn't destiny. Maybe it's readiness. Your readiness to grow. Your readiness to change. Your readiness to step beyond the version of yourself you've already outgrown. Life rarely announces its turning points. Most of them hide inside ordinary moments. Inside conversations. Inside reflections. Inside a video that appears at exactly the moment your perspective is ready to shift. And if you're still here, listening to this message right now, then something inside you is already moving forward. So don't rush it. Don't force clarity. Just stay aware. Stay open. Stay honest. Because the next chapter of your life may already be unfolding. And you're far more aligned with it than you realize.